Hi everyone, I'm here with this week's happiness strategy. And this week the theme is all around being genuine. It's about looking at the lost art of nurturing genuine connections with others. Now, these connections with other people could be the people in our immediate surroundings, the people that we come across face to face, or it could be even people on our social media channels or people that we're connected to all throughout the world. It's really about redefining and rediscovering the ways that we build our connections and nurture our connections and relationships with others. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I would definitely rather have a handful of really strong connections and relationships with other people that are based on mutual respect and understanding and love than having thousands upon thousands of superficial surface connections with other people just for the sake of saying, that we have all of these connections. To me, it's, I think as human beings, we are definitely programmed to have that desire to have meaningful connections with other people. And while social media certainly serves its purpose and it's an amazing tool for connecting with other people and perhaps extending our reach out. But I think there's also an epidemic that's been created from social media where so often it can be about being seen and being heard and shouting our messages without really having any intention behind what that message is. It can be the intention can often be just to create volume and to sort of to be seen and heard everywhere and to kind of oversaturate the market with our message. And so I find that it's just really important to come back home to my intention and to a genuine place and to build those strong connections and relationships with other people based on a genuine connection. Not just for the sake of creating masses of numbers or, getting those follows or likes, in that kind of environment. So this week I just felt like this was a really important message. It's one that I feel like I keep getting inundated with. So obviously there's some learning in that, and I wanted to make it the focus for this week, just looking at how we can enhance that genuine vibe in not only our messages that we share out in the world, but also just in how we connect and how we show up in the world on a moment-to-moment and daily basis. So I created 3 sort of ways and reminders for looking at how you can, create connection in a more meaningful and lasting way from a real genuine place. So the first one is really just showing up. So again, we've talked about this a lot in previous weeks. It's really about giving ourselves that gift of presence. And so one thing that I like to do and experiment with is just leaving my phone or your smart device, just leaving it behind, whether it's in your car or at home if you know you're not going to need it. And when you're doing your errands or when you're going to be in settings with other people, even just turn it off or turn the ringer off or put it on privacy mode and just show up in your environments and connect with other people, strike up a real conversation. And if you don't want to talk with other people, just even start noticing who is around you and what's happening around you, and take in those opportunities to create that connection on a face-to-face basis with other people, because I'm guilty of doing it, and I see it so often when I'm traveling or just being out in the world, just even watching people walk down the street. They're glued to their devices, and I just think we're, as a society, we're missing out on so many opportunities of just being present. I think we've missed the point of what our smart devices can do for us. They're meant to be a tool, not to be how we connect. I do believe human beings are meant to connect with other human beings. And there's just so much lost in translation when we're kind of sucked into technology as our way of connecting. So, just really practicing that idea of showing up when you are out in the world, and also showing up when you are perhaps, if you're using social media as a tool to connect with other people, or if it's something that you use for your work or your career, just taking a moment and really getting grounded and in your intention behind what your message is, and why you're spreading that message, why you're making that post, or why you're sharing that picture, or why you're sharing that video. Get really clear on what your intention is, and make that commitment to yourself to really show up in that, and be there for that true intention behind that. And perhaps sometimes just be really honest with yourself too. And if that intention is that you are craving connection, to maybe just shelf making that post or creating that thing for right now, and seeing how you can fulfill that feeling of connection with other real people, or even just taking that time and shutting off your phone or your devices, or just taking a step away from technology, and connecting inward with yourself, or connecting with nature, and trying to fulfill, because that void is often what we're looking to do when we're looking to connect outwards. Just seeing if there's some other ways that will appeal to your humanness, that isn't technology, to fulfill that feeling of connection. So presence is so huge, and there's ways that we can just offer that to ourselves. And I think when we do share those messages out, and we are really certain about why it is that we are sharing those messages, then we are more genuine in how we do that. And it's not just about like, notice me, hear me. It is such a celebrity obsessed kind of noisy world out there, and often the sense or the appeal can be, if I saturate the market, or if I shout loud enough and jump up and down and create all the glitz and glamour and all of this, that people will begin noticing. And I think, personally, that that's not the truth. I think that when you show up in your truth, and when you really say something, when you have something important to say, that there's a lot more nobility in that, and I believe it's doing a greater service to the people that you are sharing the message with, when it's coming from your heart and coming from a really genuine place. So showing up is definitely, my number one way to really begin kind of reconnecting to creating those connections from a genuine place, and showing up in the world, and in your work, and in your relationships, whether that's with your family or your close people, or people out there on your social media, from a real genuine place, not just a notice me, and from that place of just wanting to get more likes or shares, or that kind of a thing. Okay, and then the next way or tip is to turn the noise dial down, because the world is so oversaturated with so many messages, and people demanding and wanting to be heard. And we're all consumers, and we get to choose what we're consuming. So if we feel overwhelmed in the sea of noise, and we want to kind of find that message that resonates with us, or if we want to even share that message out with just a small group of people that we know we can help and that will resonate with us, I think a way to get good at doing this is to just practice turning that noise dial down in our own lives, and being really choosy about what it is that we do consume, so that we're not constantly being inundated with information overload, and kind of, I like to look at it as like mind viruses from all of these different conflicting messages and things. So just Taking that break from our smartphones and our devices. Like, I don't sleep with my phone anywhere near my bedroom, and I do that on purpose because I don't want the last thing that I do before bed and the first thing I do when I wake up to be my phone. Like, I would much rather connect with the people around me and my natural environment, and start my day and end my day that way. And I found that's been really helpful over time, in just turning down the noise. And again, just connecting inward, when just creating those opportunities of not filling those kind of free space moments that we have with like grabbing for our phones and distracting ourselves. Instead, just connecting inward and getting used to our own inner dialogue, or connecting outward with the people around us, is definitely a useful way to create those genuine connections with ourselves, and also ensure that there's that integrity in our messages that we are sharing out, and that we're connecting with other people for the right reasons, and from our truth. And I think that, and when we do that, we do end up creating really beautiful connections and relationships with other people, and it's just so much more fulfilling than just being on autopilot and not choosing what it is that, or not consciously, we're all choosing, but not consciously choosing what it is that we're consuming. So just getting a little bit choosier about what you're consuming on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis can go a really long way in just reducing the noise, and then getting a bit more intentional about where you put your focus and who you're connecting with and how you're connecting and showing up in the world around you. And then the third way and tip this week around just being more genuine and nurturing those genuine connections is to be true in all that you do, and be true to yourself first. So that's in the messages that you share out. It's being, listening, taking that time to really honor where you are on a day-to-day basis, and taking your action based on, what it is that you truly need. And also not being afraid to speak your truth with other people, and that there's a way that we can do that, even if we know that we're relaying a message that others might not want to hear, or that we know we might disappoint them. There's a way that we can stay in our truth and deliver messages and just communicate our truth, while also, being kind and compassionate, and just being really true to ourselves, and setting those healthy boundaries with other people around us. So it's, for example, like, if you know that you don't have time to do something, or that you don't want to, or that it isn't speaking to you, if somebody has an ask, don't be afraid to say no. And you don't have to create a whole big story of reasons and justifying yourself. You can just say it from your truth, and stand in your truth, and be okay with who you are. And I think when we form those connections and relationships with other people, when we are grounded in who we are, and when we stay true to who we are, we end up making connections with that are healthy with people. Because if we form our connections based on just really wanting to be liked or to be accepted, then generally, and we're not speaking our truth, generally these connections do have a way of kind of crumbling and dismantling over time, when we form them based on not being true to who we are. And I think this totally goes without saying when we're out there on social media as well. I don't know about you, but I know, like, just for example, on Instagram, it's just so interesting. I love just watching social media just for how it can offer all these examples of learning. Like, just even people like following you, and often, I can't speak for other people's intentions, but what I see a lot is people following you, and then if you follow them back, it seems like there's a lot of people just following people in order to get the follow back and to get the numbers. It's not really based on a genuine connection. And then they can kind of slyly, like a couple of weeks later, unfollow you and, to increase their numbers. Like it's all about a numbers game rather than about genuine connection. And so sure, at the end of the day, you might have all of these followers and likes and things like that, but if they're not based on genuine connection and relationship, or even resonation, let's just say it for what it is, because we don't necessarily make close connections all the time with people on social media, but generally you want to be following and liking things that you resonate with, and same. I think it's interesting to see how we can build our social media, based on being genuine or not being genuine. And so I just think it's a really interesting example to see how people aren't always, I don't believe, showing up true to who they are. It's more about just having that need to be seen, to be heard, to sell something, and while of course it's great to use social media as a tool to share your message, and yes, to even sell things too, but I think there's a way that we can do it with also forming genuine connections and kind of stepping away from that model of just trying to build a big kind of appearance of how things are, when if you look underneath the hood of it all, or underneath the foundation, if it's not based on you as the person delivering the messages or building the platform, let's call it, if it's not based on who you really are and on your genuine message and your genuine desire to serve or to connect, or to share or to be in touch and in tune with what your brand and message is, then I think that will all crumble and fall apart too. So I think being true to who you are in all you do, whether that's just in how you communicate in your relationships, how you show up on a day-to-day basis, how you choose to show up even on your social media, it's just so important. So I'm definitely passionate about this message this week. It's been one that keeps sort of coming up and has me really kind of thinking and really noticing things in a different way. And so I just invite you along with me just to look at this week just how you might show up just in even small ways each day with the intention of creating genuine connection, creating quality over quantity, and also giving ourselves that gift of connecting in and connecting genuinely with the people that we are surrounded by, and not just checking out on our smart devices, just taking a break from them as much as we can, using them for the tool that they're designed to be, but not replacing them for the connection that I think as human beings we're designed to have on a more personal, face-to-face level. So I hope you have some fun with it this week, and I'd love to hear any of your comments or learning or experience with this topic this week. If that speaks to you, then I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. So have an amazing week, and I look forward to connecting again next week. Thank you.